What up, what up, what up? We're back again. Excited to have one of DFW's finest. We got my man TJ Thomas here today with All Access Network podcast. TJ, what up, man?
Man, what's up, B? I appreciate you having me on today, man. I really do.
Yeah, looking forward to
it. That's your way.
What'd you say?
I said I appreciate you having me on today, man. How's everything your way?
Good, man. Good. Excited to get things started for the new year, and just looking forward to today, man. People get to know your story. So just to kick it off, we like to start it out by just saying, who is TJ Thomas?
Man, that's a good one, to be honest. I would say coach, mentor, man of God for sure. I mean, those would kind of be the main things, I would go ahead and say for myself.
Good main ones. Talk about your family real quick. I know we all have people behind us that kind of fuel us to be who we are. Talk a little about the people behind the scenes that makes TJ who he is.
Yep. So I would have to say, mom for sure. Mom, dad. I have two brothers and a sister, actually. So I'm the oldest. Grew up in a house with both of my brothers. And, I mean, to be honest, that's kind of the core, that's kind of the core of my main family right there. So, yeah, try to spend as much time with them as I can. You know what I mean? Basketball, you coach, you know how busy you could be.
Absolutely. Talk about so Texas Impact. We'll get to the story of Texas Impact here shortly, but let's talk about the breaking news. The news of last week is got a new Under Armour deal. So for those that don't know, Under Armour, there's different types of grassroots, right? You have those programs that don't have a shoe affiliation and don't have a shoe contract sponsorship that provides gear and maybe an allotment of money for travel and play on an exclusive circuit with teams from Nike if you're Nike, Under Armour if you're Under Armour, Adidas if you're Adidas, and that kind of helps a certain branding and prestige for your athletes too. So talk a little bit about just what it means to the program. I think this is your 6th year, what it means to be able to build to a point to be independent for this long and then get to this point. It's got to be a sigh of relief, but what does it mean for your program? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your kids?
Gotcha. So I guess sigh of relief isn't kind of how I would phrase it. I think it's a huge blessing and a big opportunity. I think it's gonna give us a chance to offer our kids a chance to play against some of the best players in the country. Those platforms, you got 5 stars, 4 stars, top 100 kids. I think it's gonna give us a chance to consistently lace it up with those guys. Iron sharpens iron. The best want to play the best. So I think it gives us that opportunity. I would say the best way in kind of explaining what they are. I mean, Adidas has their platform, Nike has theirs, and Under Armour has theirs. And I would probably best describe it like you did. I mean, pretty much you get an allotment of money to use for gear, and then you get an allotment of money to use for travel and practice and different things you need to do to kind of make it throughout the season and make it more, cost efficient for parents. But I think the biggest thing, even more so than what you get, I think that being able to go to these spots and play against some of the best teams in the country, I think is huge.
Absolutely. Talk about let's just talk about for your program, the players themselves. What does it mean for them? I mean, I know recruiting is as big at your level as it is at the college level. Some people don't know that. Just talk about that real quick. What does it mean from a recruiting standpoint for you guys and for your players that are already in your program playing on that stage?
Yep. So I kind of felt like we were, what's the word for it? I guess blessed or fortunate, because even prior to the deal, we had been getting some of the best kids that the state of Texas had to offer. So like with us, as far as recruiting, it may help us get a kid that may have said like, hey, I have to play on the shoe circuit. Like it's a non-negotiable for me. Maybe we'll be able to get some of those guys. But I think for the most part, we have been getting some pretty good players. So it might add another 1 or 2, to the fold. But I think it helps recruiting, certainly. I think it may speed up the process with certain things. And also, man, I mean, you coached it, and you coached at at college and in college, and the more resources you have, I mean, the easier your job is to recruit. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's
mhm,
talk about the journey. Let's talk about your career. I know you spent some time in Oklahoma State with Travis Ford.
mhm,
I've recruited your program, so we've gotten to know each other well. Much respect for how you run your program, how you teach your young man, what you work to instill in them, and then how you handle the recruiting process. I wasn't blessed to sign one. I probably would have had I not moved jobs to
yep,
Lamar to Fresno. I was on my way to signing a really good one that we love. But
yep.
no, I just talk about your journey to Oklahoma State and then what led you into grassroots, and then just talk about Texas Impact 413. I don't want to leave that part out. What is the 413 in Texas Impact as you tell the story too?
Gotcha. So my last, I want to say, year and a half, 2 years in Stillwater, man, I was able to help out Coach Ford, help out the team, and learn so much. I mean, just as far as like coaching and expectations and what it takes. Um, my last year, we did 17 and under. This was in 2016 with Texas Impact, and I actually was living in Stillwater, and I used to drive to Dallas every single week. So we used to practice on Fridays and Mondays, and we did that so basically I could make practice on the weekends. I mean, on Friday and Monday, and then we could play on the weekends. And I switched up my class schedule to where I only had class Tuesday and Thursday, kind of give me a chance to, I guess, to be there and coach and get this thing off the ground. And that was we were just Texas Impact Elite that year actually, and some things happened during that season, and we ended up switching and adding the 413 to the name, which is Philippians 413. I can do all things through Christ, and honestly, I think that ended up being a huge move. I mean, just kind of implementing God first and what we do. I think ended up kind of changing almost the landscape of what we do. Um, and to be honest, the thing just kept building and building from there. Kept learning and getting better, and it kind of led us to where we are right now. To be honest with you, I feel like there was a middle question in there that I missed.
No, just telling the journey. I mean, you obviously were at Oklahoma State, so now just talking about how you built. What made you build it? What made you create an AAU program? What made you do it, but I got to see pretty much all 6 years to this point when it
Yeah.
first started, and from doing it myself. So I was in a grassroots circle when I started
Mhm.
my career. Just finished college, similar to you probably, and just started a AU organization. And next thing you know, we had success, and we had some high level dudes. And next thing you know, you having fun. And I didn't have the same desire to continue to build it. I
Yeah.
actually kind of stepped away. My brother did the second year. He's now a head coach in college at Texas A&M
Mhm.
Commerce. I joined a couple other organizations for here or there, but I kind of went to the JUCO route
Yep.
instead and did that. So to build it year after year, and to build it to the level you have, to go from being a guy who maybe had a Division I player the first year, maybe didn't. Now that I think about it,
We
maybe
had,
he did, but they were underclassmen, right?
no,
No,
we had a couple because we had Keaton Wallace and Cameron Christian, so Boise State and UTSA.
okay,
Hmm.
gotcha. So
Yep.
early on, though, wasn't a program that was looked at like that. Whereas now people know, and you've had guys that have been McDonald's All-Americans in your program. You've had Williamson kid that's at Louisville who was a McDonald's All-American. You've
Yep.
had high-level guys. You have a Texas A&M signee. You have different level guys now. You got guys going almost every guy is Division I. So how did you build it from in such a competitive DFW area? What was kind of your formula, your mission, what made you do it, how did you do it, the whole nine?
So first thing I would tell anybody is just put God first. I mean, and then as far as like the physical grunt work, man, I think uh, to make it in this business, I think we all have to have it. But I have like a weird obsession with basketball, man. It's kind of like, man, early mornings, late nights, working out kids. I have like three three whiteboards I keep in my bedroom, and pretty much on them whiteboards is like recruiting boards for one team, and then what's coming next. I mean, a to-do list of stuff when it comes to recruiting and branding and different things of that nature. So like, I just think marketing and then actually being willing to work, I think is a big thing. Like if there's a game on a Tuesday, a Friday, a Saturday, be there. If it's a player that already plays for you or that you need to recruit, be there. Never miss an opportunity to work. You know, if a kid wants to get in the gym, be there, make it happen. I think those things is kind of what led or what helped us get there. I mean, I remember um, the summer of 2018 and 2019. I mean, just different things that I did that kind of came back to bite or didn't work. You know, you have, just to give you a rundown, in 2017, we had a really good team. That was a team where you recruited Xavier and probably would have got him if you would have stayed, to be honest. But you recruited him, and then we went to we had a really good team. That's a team with Samuel Williamson. We won a bunch of games. Our chemistry was crazy, man. Those guys. Oh, where did I go?
That was a recruit calling right there for those that don't know.
Sorry about that. No, but those guys, man, they loved each other. I think they loved each other. They cared about each other, and they accepted each other. I think which was huge. And the guys ended up playing so well together. We won a lot of games. We beat a lot of shoe teams. And I think it kind of put us on the map. But the big thing that I want to tell everybody, especially on a platform like this, is the very next summer, Burton, I don't know if you remember, we had the team with KJ Cunningham.
Yep.
And Ty Caswell and those guys. Like, man, when I say that's probably the worst job I think I've done coaching, we won games. So, like, I don't think people outside seen it.
Right.
I tell those kids all the time, like, I wish I could do it over again, because everything was about proving to everybody that we were here and we were here to stay. I mean, we had just lost Sam to the EYBL, and
right.
everybody kind of wanted to play a pity party. Like, I hate that happened to you guys. And I really didn't want that. I wanted everybody to think like, man, them dudes are good. Like, because shoe teams, man, they were losing kids left and right. I mean, they weren't getting a pity party. And right. I spent that entire summer focused on people who really, I hate to say didn't matter, but they didn't matter as much as the guys in front of me. And my investment went more into the box score than it did the guys. Like, it was more result driven. And I feel like I learned so much that year. Hated it, though. Like, hated the whole summer, didn't have fun. But I learned so much from that year. And we came back the next year. That's when we had, you know, Big John and Jeffrey Mills and those guys. And we were really good. I mean, we went 9-1 on the circuit, lost in the Elite Eight on the Rise circuit, UA Rise circuit. And we were like 34-8, I think, on the summer. Like, we barely lost. Out of those 8 losses, I think we lost the first 4 in the first 3 weeks of the season. So, but the investment was different. It wasn't about the wins and losses. It was more about the guys in front of us. Let's invest in people and see what those relationships do for us. And I think it was great. It worked out well for us during this COVID summer as well. So, like, I guess my advice to speak on the journey for anybody trying to do this is stay focused on what's important to you. Like, don't get caught up in what people say or what people expect you to be. Just be you and trust the process. Like, that would be my advice.
Right. And there's you talked about, that was great, TJ, by the way, but you talked about just kind of a real life introspection, right? You had to look yourself in the mirror. You knew something didn't feel right. You had to kind of assess and say, you know what? I was doing this for the wrong reasons this time, and I got away from myself. What made you do that? How did you come about that conclusion? Because that's really something in real life that for all of us, whether you coach grassroots, whether you coach in college, whether you're a parent, whether you're a husband, whether you're a college student, whether you're whatever you are,
Mhm.
that we all kind of need to do along the way. So what made you do that? And it sounds like the success and the success is obvious now with where your program is headed from there, because it's kind of a turning point. If you stayed on that path, you wouldn't be probably where you are with the Under Armour deal. You wouldn't have the players you probably just recently had. So talk about that part of it real quick before we move to the next thing.
Man, if I had to like attribute it to one any moment, which I really don't know if I quite believe if it was one any moment, but I remember distinctly, like I went to my parents' house. I asked asked my mom a question, and she probably doesn't even realize. Or I really more so made a statement. She probably really didn't even realize what I was getting at. She will when she watches this podcast, though. But she, I told her, I said, like it was a lot of pressure, don't you think, to finish college in a certain amount of time, like to be a certain kind of kid person. I was always kind of like the old head, I guess, coming through. Old soul is what a lot of people told me. So a little bit ahead, I guess, if you will, smart kid. And everybody in my family used to talk about different expectations and different things that they thought I was going to do. And like, hey, man, he's going to take over this or take over that. I think in high school, they voted me like most likely to be rich or succeed or something like that. Like, and I was just talking to her about the pressure and all of that. I mean, just randomly. And she was telling me, like, basically all of that pressure was self-inflicted. Like nobody else was carrying those same standards or expectations but yourself in your own mind. And I think just hearing that, I was able to apply it back to basketball, and what I was deeming to be important versus what really was. So I think that one conversation made the difference, and it wasn't even about hoops. So
Right.
how that worked out.
That's usually how it works. But let's talk about adversity, right? You have kids. You do a great job of staying connected to your kids even when they move on. I think sometimes in the grassroots, they get a bad reputation. So we'll talk a little bit about what some of the misconceptions of guys that are in your role. We'll ask that second part. But first part is, what's just an adversity that you personally have had to overcome? You kind of talked about the shift and the awareness of kind of been able to look back. What's an adversity personally that you've had to overcome that may even draw inspiration from your players? Because we talk all the time as coaches and as leaders about that moment of adversity and how important that really will define your success. Whatever you're doing in life, again, it will define your success, how you handle adversity. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond. So what would you say for yourself personally, how that fits in? And then secondly, what's a misconception of guys that are grassroots leaders or grassroots coaches?
So as far as adversity, man, just a quick story. In 2016, I worked with another program. We kind of linked up. This was my first year doing, 17U competitively, like at this level. And Adidas Silver did their first time doing a circuit, and we went out. We did it. Dallas, we go 3-1, but I made the mistake of taking too many players. I had like 12 dudes on this team. And I had like 12 dudes that were pretty good and could play. Obviously, kids aren't playing when stuff like that happens. We do 3-1 in Dallas. We go to Atlanta for session 2. We go 1-3. We get back from Atlanta, and mind you, I was living in Oklahoma at this time. My team's based out of Dallas. I get a call from a parent like, hey, one of the parents on the team sent a text to all the parents like, hey, we're not like, we don't appreciate the way this team is being coached. Like, let's all get a new coach and kind of do the team on our own. And just a couple of weeks prior to that, maybe 3 or 4 weeks prior, man, we had a parent on the team, which is another reason why if you are in the program, we won't take a donation from you until after you're done. Is we had a parent who donated maybe $5,000 or $6,000 toward the season. Anybody who's done AAU knows $5,000 or $6,000 doesn't take you that far. And the parent got super upset because their kid wasn't playing a lot. I mean, it was 12 players on the team. And threw a fit, man, tried to sue us and the whole nine. So, between being stressed out from that and then coming out and having the parents try to hijack the team, that's actually when we decided to switch the name from Texas Impact to Texas Impact 413. And, I was done. I was like, you know what, man, this is just too much. I'm getting ready to finish school, get a job, kind of work it differently. Like, this is just too much to kind of deal with. And we ended up getting a kid, Xavier Bryant, who was a year younger than all the other kids. Like the next week after all of that happened, just so we could have 7 players and finish out the summer. And I'll tell anybody who asks, because they'll say, like, hey, the way you talk about X, like, he's like one of your favorites, man. If it wasn't for him, I highly doubt we would be here talking about grassroots. I mean, because he would tell me, like, Coach, we got to have a team. We got to have a team. Like, we got to have a team. Because I was done, and I think probably in terms of grassroots, I think that was the hardest thing to face, because the parent who did it, I had known for years. I had been around him for years, so it was just kind of like a huge betrayal. And to touch that second question on like the misnotion or the notion that AAU coaches are in it for them. I'm here to say it like where a lot of people can watch and pay attention. There's not a lot of money in grassroots basketball. It's really not, especially at the high school level or the elite level. It's not really a chance for coaches to go crazy and make a bunch of money off your kid. I think a lot of the time, like, guys are doing this purely because they have a big heart and they want to help. They want to make a difference. I talk to different grassroots coaches all the time. I mean, and they're always like working and working and working. This time last year, I mean, we were talking about it, Burton, not too long ago. I used to get up super early, 4 a.m, read, pray, and then I was driving, 50 minutes from my house to go work out a kid every morning. No charge, nothing. There was no, I mean, it was just all about trying to cultivate a relationship with that player. And I know several grassroots coaches who do the same and have big hearts.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that even from doing it myself, and from recruiting and having those relationships. So when you do it, you have relationships at that level. So you have a different relationship when you go back to recruit, different than it, because you've been one of them. You know what it was like. You lived it. And so I think that's the part that gets frustrating is, it's almost like, and I don't even mind saying this, the Ball brothers played last night, right?
Yeah.
2 brothers that were drafted top 5 has never happened in NBA history. But the way LeVar Ball is looked at because of the media, because of the perception, it's like he's a terrible person or he's done something bad. But ultimately, he's kind of genius in what he did, to be honest, because no one else has done. And he had a shoe deal outside of all the other shoe deals that brought money into his own house instead of making somebody else rich. I have the product. I'm the one who has the kids that can play. And I don't mean product as in product, but I mean ultimately the commodity, right? So AAU coaches kind of get the same perception as like a LeVar Ball. And let's be honest, a lot of AAU coaches are black. So it's like, wait a minute, we're helping out where there's a lot of fathers that aren't involved. There's a lot of parents that may not be involved. There's not a lot of positive role models always in these young people's lives for something that they care about, right? Yeah, there's teachers, but they may not be into school like that. But basketball, what they love, makes them into school. So I love the fact that we're touching on it, and it's something that, somebody said this the other day. He's like, I appreciate what you're doing. He was talking to me. He's like, because you're allowing grassroots coaches now who were kind of the forgotten people in the pandemic. Everybody's getting on Zooms and getting interviewed and telling their story, but the grassroots guys really were the ones still coaching the kids, still helping them figure out how to get recruited, still figuring out how to help them get signed, still calling college coaches to figure out let me get you film, let me get you transcripts. And so the unforgotten guy who's just continuing. And to be honest, when things go bad in college, they're going to call back to their grassroots coach and their high school coaches. They have a certain relationship. There's no doubt. I don't want to take high school coaches out of this by any means, but the grassroots coaches are the ones picking them up, taking them to tournaments, allowing them to have a chance to grow in their game in a different way. It's underappreciated. It gets undervalued. It gets this bad connotation about it, like there's all this negative things happening on the grassroots level. So I appreciate you touching on that. Talk about for yourself. You've built this big time program that has gone from kind of being an underdog to now being a mid major power, if you will, or a high major now. Like let's say Kelvin Sampson at University of Houston wasn't thought about, and then now all of a sudden they're top 10. So this is similar kind of a progression, right? Where you built something into, it wasn't really relevant for a while, and then now it is. So you've done that, and you're going to do a great job with your guys on the circuit. So you'll have success. I'm sure you have goals. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you have goals within the circuit that you want to continue to accomplish. Guys will continue to go to the next level. You figured out how to win. You just talked about the success rate and the records. And so what's next for TJ once Texas Impact continues to do what it's doing? Is there another vision? Because you have your board, you're drawing on your dry erase board, you're checking things off. What about TJ personally? I know you're selfless. I know you're giving stuff for your players, but what's the next step or the end game, so to speak, for TJ?
So after grassroots, finishes up, I guess, whenever that time is, I would love to have the opportunity to build a program collegiately. I mean, obviously you have to get in as a stepping stone. You have to work for people, be an assistant, and all of those good things. And I think one lifelong dream of mine would be to step in and be able to be a head coach, at the Division I level and be able to build something, build a culture, build an identity. I think they have so many ways to touch young athletes at the college level. I think that would be a huge opportunity. Just being able to come in, you're with those guys pretty much every day. You're able to instill different beliefs in those guys and set them up for life after basketball. I just think being able to have that impact on kids, on young athletes, on young men would be honestly a huge life goal or a dream come true for myself. Being able to coach, and I know you touched on goals. I mean, goals within the circuit. I mean, I hear all the time, and I've heard it from different people that represent the brand. I mean, guys are so caught up in like us trying to win and win games, and hey, if you get on the circuit, you win, you'll let everybody know that you're here and you're here to stay. I've gotten caught up in that once before, and I think God put me through that to teach me and prepare me for this moment. I think it's no different than, what comes after this or during this. I think the most important thing for me right now is just to continue to grow, continue to improve, grow as a person, grow as a mentor, grow as a coach. I mean, just continue to learn new things, year in and year out. Like I said, I mean, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people know, like, I'm probably the youngest grassroots director on the circuit, probably by a lot of years. So with me being one of the younger guys out there, I think time is definitely on my side. So as long as I just keep growing and improving, I think things will work out the way they're supposed to work out.
Absolutely. Success is written all over you, man. I've always said it, and always been in your corner. That hadn't changed. But even when you don't get to talk and when you don't connect with somebody as much, you just, what's understood don't have to be said. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I appreciate who you are and what you're doing, and I think nothing but the best is yet to come. So tell me this, TJ, as we kind of talk about you more.
Mm-hmm.
What's different about Texas Impact? It's a little bit of a recruiting pitch. If you had to say 1 minute, so I'll let you say what's different about Texas Impact first, and then secondly, I'll just let you give a recruiting pitch, but I'll step in between so we can break it up. But what's different about Texas Impact?
Easily the culture. Easily the culture. I mean, I think it's extremely hard to play here, but I think just the mixture of like how hard you get pushed, when you mix that in with the love, the care, and the acceptance, I think is huge here. But if I had to pick one thing that's just different from most places, I would say the culture. I can't speak for a lot of AAU teams. I don't know if AAU teams have culture, but just the relentless grind, I think here is different, right? You're practicing multiple times a week. I mean, you have film. I mean, kids are up on Zoom calls late at night, after games, trying to figure stuff out. You're getting scouts texted to your phone. I mean, like, yo, this is your job this weekend. I mean, we play this team, and here's how we want to cover that. I think just that, and then like the expectation level is pretty high. Like, the different ways we want to guard ball screens, or I mean, you can get in trouble here for closing out with your feet directed the wrong way. I mean, just every single minute detail, I think is probably what's different, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no doubt. Well said. We'll do these next 3 questions, just like 1 minute, whatever you got for me. So first one is why Texas Impact? I know you kind of touched on the culture, but if you had to say in 1 minute, why should somebody be a part of Texas Impact? And you can say culture again if you want to, but what's the 2 or 3 things or the 4 reasons why, or whatever words or whatever you got?
Why Texas Impact? So I would say if you want to go somewhere where you're going to be promoted, you should come play here. And then honestly, if you want to come and play somewhere that's going to prepare you for what's next, come play here. Our season isn't going to be about us winning some championship here, championship there. Our season is going to be about everybody being a part and being a better version of themselves on and off the court. So if you're going to play here, I think it's about you wanting to be the best version of you, I think, and that's why I would choose here. I mean, it's just all about growth. It's not really about results at the end of the day. It's about growth here, and I think that's why somebody should choose to play here. Between that and how much we push our guys and promote our guys, I think those 2 things would be the reason why I would say play here.
Yeah, well said. You talked about push. You talked about marketing earlier. You talked about promoting. Talk about in 1 minute what makes the recruiting process for a player to play in your program so beneficial, right? How is it that Texas Impact benefits a young man's recruiting? No matter what stage of where your recruiting is at, maybe you're getting some pretty good recruitment, maybe you aren't, maybe you're really on the radar, whatever it is, you still have to make a decision in the end. And I think sometimes people forget how important, or maybe they don't even realize how important the people around you are in the decision-making process, not just getting recruited, not just getting offers, but also making the decision that is the best fit. So what about Texas Impact is the benefit for your player's recruitment or a parent's recruitment?
We try to stay fairly out of the decision-making process. I mean, we have some guys who may need more help than others. I mean, and if they do, we're there to help. But I would say, like, the biggest difference is, like, after you're done, right? As you know, Coach, when you go to a college, man, I mean, sometimes I tell my kids all the time, like, it's just you, in college. And what I mean by that is, like, if you don't work, some of these schools may never have to deal with you again. I think the biggest thing, like, with us is myself and my coaches, we try to do so much talking to our guys after they're gone that I think being able to have another way to connect with the coach, I think is kind of key, because, we'll call, check in, hey, how's my guy doing? Is he struggling in practice? Is he doing well in practice? Like, what are you seeing? What do you think comes next? Like, just different things like that, I think, is one of the biggest benefits of playing here. It's not just like, boom, you go to college, you're on an alumni board, and we stop talking to you or doing anything to help you. I think we're fully vested even after you're done.
Yeah, well said. Well said. You talk about marketing and exposure. What would you say about Texas Impact when it comes to marketing and exposure?
I think we're second to nobody in that, if I'm just being honest with you. Definitely one of the best, I think, in the country. We do a lot of different things. Obviously Twitter is what gets seen publicly, right? The tweets and putting out what a kid can do. Little do people know, I mean, coaches know, but if I tweet on a player, I'm also texting a bunch of coaches that I think that kid can help. And then we have an email base that goes out at the beginning of the year to every coach in the country. We separate it by conference, and we send them out pretty much maybe 3 or 4 conferences a week with, hey, here's our roster, here's who's offered, and the level that the kid's getting recruited at, and a little snippet on that kid's game and what he does and what he would bring to the table. So I just think like the endless promoting and pushing and trying to tell guys about our players, I think is what's a little different here.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And that goes such a long way to make anytime you can make the college coach's job easier, because other people may be trying to do something similar. They may not be as concise or efficient, but you get so many people trying to push this player or that player. So to be able to have something that's clear and concise and well done like that is so important. Talk last one about the relationship between high school coaches and grassroots. What would you say about that? Because I think that's also something that needs to be touched on before we close.
Yep. So just when I'm running the 2021 team that we had last summer, Emo, who goes to Bishop Lynch, Jalen Lake, who's at Waxahachie, Zurich Phelps, who's at Duncanville, Tay Mosier, who's at the Colony, Reedus Petratus, who is at Oak Ridge. That's who started pretty much the bulk of last season for us. And Cal May at BL, PV at Duncanville, Coach Ryan at the Colony, Gober at Wax. I mean, you can kind of go down the list of our rosters, man. I try to connect with kids' high school coaches the best way I can. I mean, I make sure to call, introduce myself if we don't already know each other. I think it's very important, to be honest. I think if the process is going to work, I think everybody has to be on the same page. I mean, there can't be any jockeying for influence or anything like that. I think if everybody's on the same page and everybody just wants to help, I think it works out best for the kid. And to be honest, a lot of high school coaches coach grassroots too. So I know there's like a strong, what seems like a divide, but I know like at the highest level of AAU, you have a lot of high school coaches that actually coach in grassroots. So we have high school coaches that coach in our program. So
right.
This year with 2022, this is going to be the fourth year in a row where I've had a high school coach's son on my team. So per myself, I try to be all in with the high school coaches.
No doubt, no doubt. So talk about DFW. We talked about high school coaches. We talked about grassroots. What makes DFW basketball special? You know what I mean? It's one of these places. It's one of these places that, you talk about pros. We talk about just college coaches who have gone from similar seats to yourself. We've had Uric Malagy on the podcast. He's one that started in grassroots. There's several others, myself included. And so my brother included, he was on the grassroots. He's a head coach now, leading his wins at his program.
Doing a great job out there.
Yeah, doing a tremendous job. And so what does it mean to be a part of such a place that's a mecca for basketball? People may not look at it as a mecca, but it is. And they need to start looking at it that way. And then how do you think that benefits you when you do go to the next level? If you don't mind touching on those two things before we kind of close out.
Dallas is hot. I mean, that's the best way I could put it, man. Dallas basketball is really, really good, man. And you mentioned guys like Uric Malagy, probably one of the best recruiters, I think, to come out of Dallas. I mean, and one of the best coaches. I mean, not a lot of people give him credit for like what he knows about basketball inside and out. I've been on the phone with Uric late nights just breaking stuff down before. But Dallas to me, man, it's hot. I mean, the kids are really good, but iron sharpens iron, man. I mean, once you get that foundation of having really good players, top players around the country, and then these other guys are playing those guys in high school games and summer games, I mean, they're getting better. I mean, when our kids go work out, I mean, they're working out with the top 15, 20, 25 kids in the country versus not having that here and just being a guy that's just out of body. I think we've developed the iron sharpens iron kind of stigma here. And then secondly, I heard somebody else say it, and I think it stands to be true. A lot of jobs are in Texas, in Dallas, and a lot of people have moved here. I mean, myself, I'm from the Midwest, and I know a lot of people from Detroit, Chicago, Wisconsin. They're moving to Dallas, and I think those people are still basketball people from basketball cities, from basketball states rather. I think, and they're bringing that here and bringing that training, and I think helping flip Texas. To be honest, I think the basketball has to be just as good as the football, if not better. I mean, to be honest, I mean it has to be right there. I mean, I know Texas was like the second most recruited state in the country last year. So Dallas basketball is off the chain, man, and I think down the line that could help. I mean, just because having relationships here with the grassroots coaches, the high school coaches, the trainers, so on and so forth, the media guys. And there's just so many players out here. So being able to come back here and recruit, I think is huge just because it's a lot of guys here. It's a lot of good players here.
Yeah, it's not changing. It's not changing. And they're always looking. They're always looking for a guy who can recruit Texas. Myself personally, I've benefited from being from Dallas, being in the Houston area as well. And recruiting Texas, you can recruit Texas anywhere. Texas players go anywhere. People know that now. And if you look at a lot of the successful programs, Gonzaga, Texas, dude, last year had 3 Texas starters. This year, Drew Timme is absolutely killing it. Michigan State, you can mention them. You can mention Kentucky in the years that they've been good, and Duke, and you can go down the line. Texas right now. Kansas has young fella playing really well. So there's players everywhere that come from Texas. So it's definitely going to benefit you when you do make that transition. I'm going to speak it into existence. The thing that I experienced, and you will have even more of this kind of equity. I did it in the grassroots circle and in the JUCO circle, so it benefited me both ways because that's the levels you recruit from. So you having paid so many dues over so many years and having real relationship where it's intimate, people have been able to see how you are with your players. Yep. Even if you went toe-to-toe and you won on a recruit or you won in a game, they're going to respect the fact that you took care of your players the way you did, the way you were professional, the way you were, and your follow-through. I think your follow-through and your communication is important because at the end of the day, guys in the grassroots level want their guys to go someplace where not only they're going to be able to put their chest out, that has a little bit of it. I think people get over that. But most grassroots guys want their guys to go where they're going to have somebody on the grounds that's going to make sure that young man has a great chance to be successful.
Exactly. That's most important.
I think that's how I was able to build a relationship with you and coaches that do a good job with you recruiting your program. That's what you want to feel comfortable about. And the head coach plays a role, but ultimately we all know the head coach gets busy and he's got 13 guys that have the same recruitment as that kid. So who's going to be the one ensuring that my young man is going to have the best chance to be his best version of himself? Because he's going to mess up. He's going to make mistakes. So let's end with this funny story. Any funny story you got, and I know you got some. I can think of one, but I won't tell it. And
may need your help on it.
What do you say?
I may need your help on it.
And the other one is we talk about writing your story, leaving your mark, creating your legacy. You're writing your story. We know that. You're leaving your mark. What do you want your legacy to be when it's all said and done? So funny story, and then lead right into legacy.
If I had a funny story, is tough, man. It's tough. That was a tough one. I don't have like too many on the top of my head, like just a story. I will say this though: a lot of my funniest moments here recently, especially, come from Big E with Dallas Showtime. I mean, if you're around him enough, I mean, you're gonna have a bunch of funny moments. I don't know if I quite have a story though. I'm getting a brain freeze on that one.
I got one a little bit. We won't tell the whole story. We won't give names, but I was with you at an event, and you were being charged at the door. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm supposed to be able to get in here. I got my guys in there. Like, yo, what's the deal? So it became funny, and we all can laugh about it later. But I thought that was one I thought of. That was like, I see the funny side of TJ.
That was in the moment. That was a serious moment.
It was. It became funny.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to tell the story. We told it enough. You're good.
Yeah, I'm gonna let that one pass by. Well,
but that's kind of the stuff that I think, and I say funny because afterwards, when you are going back to recruit, that is stuff you'll be able to laugh about, right? Like, hey, remember that time, right? And it all becomes love in the city. everyone in the city wants to do. There's so many media guys, so many good guys doing grassroots, so many good trainers. Everybody wants to see the city do well. You know what I mean? And every now and then the competitive part comes out, but I think that's one thing I love about the city and being from there and being able to still call it home. It's always going to be a place I do the best to promote as best I can, because it needs to be screamed loud from the rooftops about the state and about the city. But I think that's going to benefit you on the backside. So talk a little bit about leaving your mark, the mark you want to leave and the legacy you want to create.
To be honest, and that's something that I've thought about a bunch, just from different mentors of mine, different coaches in college that I kind of look up to. And I think the mark I want to leave, I think, will be answered by the guys I coach, if I'm just being honest with you. I think that I don't think there's actually like a certain mile marker as far as like accomplishments. I think the way my players feel, I've been able to help or impact their lives, I think will be most important, to be honest. So I think my mark will be kind of determined or evaluated by myself by kind of how those guys are able to react, or how those guys, handle adulthood, like how we prepared them, or how have I helped prepare them for adulthood and life during and after basketball. Like, are they ready to face some adversity? Are they ready to be a father? Are they ready to be a mentor? Are they ready to have an impact on somebody else's life? I think to be honest, like, if you talk about what imprint you want to leave or legacy you want to leave, I think that would be the one. Like, just how those guys feel about how well myself and my crew help prepare them for life after basketball.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, I love it, man. I appreciate you coming on today. Had a blast. I'm glad people get a chance to know the story and know the man behind Texas Impact. People actually get to know your last name too, not just TJ from Texas Impact. TJ Thomas, a name that they will get to remember as you become more and more successful in this game of basketball. I believe at the Division I level as an assistant to start, and I look forward to support that journey any way I can as well from my vantage point, man. So we'll give you any last words you got, and then we'll shut it down, man.
Last thing I have, man, is just thanking you for allowing me to be on the show and give me the opportunity to kind of answer some questions and let folks know about myself, my goals, and our program. So I appreciate you for opening that door up for me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. We gotta take care of each other in the city, man. So much love. Keep up the good work. Excited about the Under Armour contract. Excited to continue to follow. And yeah, you've always been a person I consider to be like family. Even though what's understood don't need to be said. We run in the same circle, but I'm glad for you, man. Happy for you. Always had much respect. I could have told a funny story too about camp that I worked the one summer I was out with you guys, and how I felt like I got gypped. But that's okay. That's okay.
You know what? That's the one I should have went with. That's the one I should have went with.
That's a good one. That's a good one. We'll save that. We'll save that one for next time. We'll give some people something to look forward to. But much respect, man. Stay safe out there and keep up the good work, T.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, man.